Welcome to this information session on the Certificate in Television Production here at Munster Technological University in Cork. My name is Anne-Marie Green. I'm a lecturer on the programme and I'm also course coordinator. So during this session, you'll be hearing from graduates of the programme about their experiences and what you can expect from this part-time Level 8 course. We'll also hear from one of our key industry stakeholders with whom you'll be doing work placement, and they'll be telling us about how the industry is doing, what career prospects there are, and what you as a student on this course can expect from the intensive work placement within their organisation. So first, we'll have a look at the structure of the programme and how this part-time course is going to be delivered. So the purpose of the course is to provide essentially an overview of the current television industry landscape. This is obviously important. It's a landscape that's changing all the time. It's also a landscape that maybe some people, particularly if they're coming out from a film and TV background in terms of an academic course, maybe thinking more in terms of their own ideas rather than specifically what is happening currently in Irish or the UK TV market. Another crucial thing to think about, of course, is your audience. What are you making? Who's going to be watching it? Their demographics. They're obviously very important decisions that need to be part of your documentary and your program ideas. Funding models, of course, you could have the best idea in the world, but if you don't have anyone to back it, it's not going to get made. So really understanding how funding works and where you may look for funding other than maybe where you think you might find it. Developing program ideas, that's a very key part of this program. It's forcing you to look at what's being made and to come up with ideas that are likely to fit into that schedule in a year or even in 2 or 3 years down the line. Creating proposals. What do funders, what do broadcasters want from you? Pitching, again, best idea in the world. If you can't tell it and express that to somebody else, it's not going to be successful. Developing a social presence. We all know how important that is in terms of letting people know what it is that you're doing, what your skills are. Operating as an independent contractor and an awareness of legal requirements and restrictions. And I suppose that's the business end of the program and the business end of operating within television production. Quite a lot of work is as an independent contractor. And if you're not used to considering what you need to do in terms of tax and liabilities, again, you may run into difficulties. So we want to make sure that you're preempting all of that. An awareness of your legal requirements and your restrictions. You work within a legal framework in terms of what is allowed to be broadcast. So knowing what you can and can't broadcast is very important. In semester 1, both of our semesters run for 13 weeks. Semester 1 runs from September to December. And we have 2 main modules in semester 1, television production careers. That is our lecturer, Gary Flood. He'll be giving you a rundown on what's involved in that. Roughly, program proposal development and writing and social media promotion. Television industry environment has guest speakers, obviously a way of networking, but also finding out what is happening in the industry. Documentary development and treatment, so longer type programming. And again, media law, libel, contempt of court, accounts and finance, operating as an independent contractor in your tax liability, all very important things. So again, wanting you to have an awareness of some of the things that are going to be required that if you do move into a career in television production. So briefly, the module workload for semester 1. So it is a part-time course. It's blended delivery, and that means that you will have quite a lot online, but you'll also have quite a lot of classes face-to-face. But what we've tried to do is to work with, I suppose, a lot of the applicants that we've had over the years are people who are already working, and they may be able to carve out a little bit of time for this course, but it's not a full-time course. So in order to facilitate that, we have weekly classes online. So that's 3 hours every week. And then we have 4 full-day workshops that are held here on the Bishopstown campus. Generally, we have them on a Friday, again, to make it easier for people to come to Cork, come to campus, do intensive workshops, but it's done in a day. So we have 4 of those in the second half of semester 1. Obviously, independent learning. That's what you do. And there's quite a lot of work. There will be work from week to week that you will be expected to do in order to build up towards your final assessment, which will be submission of very, very practical assessments in terms of coming up with, developing and pitching ideas. In semester 2, then, the whole semester is placement. So you will be in placement for the duration of semester 2 with a range of different partners that we have here in MTU and the Department of Media Communications. There's a minimum of 14 hours per week. So let's say that's 2 full days a week. We would absolutely encourage you to take advantage of anything that is being made available. So oftentimes that might be up to 4 days a week. There may also be the possibility of doing live work at weekends. So we do require a degree of flexibility with the course, but the work placement is a fantastic and intensive, very well structured part of the program. You'll be working as part of the team within a host organization. And I suppose in some cases, placements can be you observing people, which of course is a very important part of a work placement, but our work placement here on this program is very much a part of you becoming an integral part of the team. So if you're not there, there's work that doesn't get done. So we put you under pressure from the start, but it's an amazing learning experience. And then the assessments in all of our modules are based on really work-related practical work. So as I mentioned, the module Television Production Careers is given by Gary Flood, who is a very experienced TV operator. He has been a director, he's been a scriptwriter, he helps independent production companies to come up with ideas, to develop those ideas and get them to proposal stage, to a funding stage. So huge amount of experience. So Gary, maybe you could talk a little bit about some of the programs that you've worked on and then how that is brought into the classroom.
Well, sure. Do you know what I mean? I suppose the first program I worked on was, Moses, the Ten Commandments. Why? My experience is largely due to the fact I've been around a long time. Yeah, my experience in television over the years has been in a very broad range of programming, from sort of comedy to drama to documentary to light entertainment. But I suppose the majority of it has been in what I call the 7 o'clock to 9 o'clock bracket on TV, which is kind of lifestyle, factual entertainment programming, which is a very broad genre, including, like, I've done Operation Transformation for a number of years, Cheap Irish Homes. There's a show called Whose Holiday Is It Anyway? Super Garden, the restaurant TV show, things like that, things you might know. And I've worked across programming for largely terrestrial linear television stations in Ireland and internationally, RTE, TV3, Virgin Media as it is now, TG Cahir, BBC, Sky, the Science Channel. So I've got a very broad range of experience across the whole range of programming, but largely speaking within that sort of fact-dense, factual entertainment area. And it's what I concentrate on as part of the Careers in Television Production module, which is part of the first semester of this course. My approach to the work is really practically driven. I take a very workshop kind of approach. Yes, for each session, I will have a certain amount of PowerPoint. I'll have a certain amount of information to bring to the table. But my, if you like, lectures or sessions tend to be more interactive and workshop based. So, for example, we'll have a look at certain television shows. We'll analyze how they're made. We'll break them down to see how they're structured. We look at, for example, what's the tone? What tone sets the restaurant aside from, say, Operation Transformation? Why is Cheap Irish Homes so popular, and why does it go on at 7:30, 7 o'clock on a Thursday evening? So we look at the nuts and bolts of how we make TV shows. In terms of what we do in each session, it's everything from looking at production structure. So where do you fit into production? Who are the personnel involved in production, whether it's out in the field or in a studio? We look at studio etiquette. How do you behave? What are the requirements for working in a studio or in a production environment? We look at analyzing different genres. We look at how to tailor our work to specific audiences. And I'm going to say this early, I'm going to say it often. One of the things that I really do encourage people who are going to take this course on is to please start watching television. It's something I think that we've all kind of gotten out of the habit of, and I include myself in that to a certain extent. The number of times I've walked into a room with 6, 8, 10, a dozen people to say, what did you watch on TV last week? And I get a kind of a blank YouTube, you know. It's really important, if we're going to work in the environment of linear terrestrial television, that we're at least aware of what the trends are, that we're aware of what's actually on TV right now. Because if we're not aware of that, we can't respond to it with any degree of efficiency or efficacy, you know. I also do a quick module during the course of the semester on effective workplace communication. So how to communicate appropriately in the workplace. The assessments, if you will, there are 2 assessed pieces of work on my module. One of them is a piece around using social media as a networking device. And the main assessment, though, is around a TV proposal, a pitch, if you like, for a factual entertainment, lifestyle television show that I work with the students to develop. Okay, so we go from having the idea to seeing where it might fit in the schedule, to fleshing it out into either a one-off show, a short series, or perhaps a returnable series. And we work it to the point where it's actually pitchable to a television commissioner. To that end, during the course of the 12 weeks we're together, I do try and get 1 or 2 of my own sort of guest speakers in from the industry, somebody who's just starting out, and somebody, for example, a production manager who has some experience and shares with the students what they're looking for in terms of the ideal person coming into the workplace. Because it is, as Anne-Marie said, you know, quite often the people coming to take on this course are people who may have an academic qualification. And I see my module, Careers in TV Production, as a kind of a bridging piece, if you like, between the college qualification and being workplace ready. Because very often, you know, the college experience doesn't to coin that phrase, doesn't file the edges off you to get you ready to work in a production or studio environment. And that's what I hope to try and get to there. And I include things like, for example, how to read a running order, how to read and how to write a call sheet, how to get paid, how to write an invoice. You know, and again, it's surprising how often I kind of go, okay, folks, we're going on about invoices. People go, now what now? You know, you do need to ask to get paid. So that's broadly speaking what we cover in our 12 weeks together. And there are 2 full days in person where we both look at, I tend to use shows that I've made myself to break down and look at how they're structured, and also take that time to really fine hone those TV ideas. And in the time that I've been doing this, I have seen a number of projects that I would say absolutely, let's bring this to somebody who works in a TV station in a commissioning capacity and at least run it past them, because there are some very, very interesting ideas that come from the people who come onto this course. I always look forward to it. I look forward to it again this year. Thanks, Anne-Marie.
So it's very rare that we as lecturers give the strongest piece of advice and recommendation to potential students to watch television as much as possible, but it really is important. Again, if you want to make money out of this business, you've got to be making what people want. Colm is the best person. He'll tell us what he's looking for, what's likely to be looked for over the next couple of years. Okay, so I just wanted to quickly go back then to TV industry environment. So I deliver on this module along with another couple of lectures. So this is a 10 credit module. So it's quite jam-packed with quite a lot of information. So guest speakers would be a huge part of this. I think it's really, really important, as Gary was saying, to be able to see people at different stages in their career. So we'd often have guest speakers that would include people who are at the top of their career and have an overview of what's happening, but also the people who are midway or have just started as well, maybe starting out as maybe runners or research assistants, because that can kind of give you a sense of a structure within the industry. Where can I go? What are the different routes that I might be able to take? I also work on documentary development and treatment. My background is as a television journalist and documentary maker. Documentaries are, so the documentaries for TV are different, quite different from the documentaries that you may have made or may have seen for the festival circuit, or that might be shown in cinemas, full length, feature length documentaries. With a documentary for television, it has to take account of the television hour, it has to take account of ads, etc., that are going to break it up. So its structure is very, very different. They are often quite expensive to make, and maybe they're a little bit in decline, but then they can often be hugely impactful, and they can be the water cooler moment, you know, where people are talking about something that was in a documentary. So we work on that, and that kind of works with Gary's focus more on series of maybe half or hour-long program over an extended period that might have multiple episodes and maybe multiple series as well. Media law, I mentioned, really, really important. Two key areas that we need to look at is libel and contempt of court. Libel is a total legal quagmire, and it can have you in serious trouble. And more importantly, it can have your company, if you're working for a television production company, it can have them basically go bankrupt if you get it wrong, if you commit libel. So it's knowing what you can and what you cannot say about people. And there are different ways that you can libel them, ways that you would never, ever dream of, believe me. Contempt of court, a huge issue. Identifying someone who may not be legally, it may not be legally permissible to identify. And we see that maybe in sexual assault cases, but also at what stage someone has been charged, etc. And contract law. Again, maybe as an independent contractor, you need to know what your relationship is with the people who are hiring you, and with the people that perhaps you are hiring. Maybe it's talent to be a presenter on your program. So you really do need to be a bit of an all-rounder, and that is what this program is really about. Accounts and finance, again, operating as an independent producer. A lot of us have had someone else deal with our tax for years. You work as an independent contractor, someone has given you lots of money to shoot a video for them, and you don't deduct 50% for tax to pay the revenue, but revenue commissioners will not forget about it. So again, just making you aware of the business end as well as the creative end of TV production. So now we're going to have a chat with some of the people who've already been through the program and who we've been, I suppose, kept in contact with over the years. So Jake Hyland is a freelance video editor. He was on the course a couple of years ago. I think you might have been one of the, were you a COVID cert?
Towards the end,
Towards
I think,
the end.
yeah.
Yes, yeah. Obviously, very challenging time for us, and we're all very glad that we can be back in the classroom and obviously back in work placement again. He's worked as an assistant editor and production assistant with independent production companies, mainly on factual entertainment programs. Maria Creedon has worked as a researcher and production assistant, and Will Hickey is the social media manager in RT on the Today Show. Video producer as well for both commercial and for non-profit clients. So thanks very much for joining us today. Jake, what were your expectations from the course?
I suppose I came from UCC doing a very theory-based course, film and screen media. So I was expecting maybe something that would give me practical skills for the industry. And I suppose those expectations were met sort of in my time. Since leaving the course, there's so many different aspects I've had to use. Whether it be from, like, I've encountered elements of developing shows, and obviously Gary mentioned invoices and dealing with operating as like a sole trader. So I'd say the course definitely met my expectations coming out the other side.
Maria, I know that you obviously had a very busy life before and during and after the course. How did you find the delivery? Obviously, it's a combination of in-person and online. Did that work for you?
Yes, yeah, it was one of the reasons why I chose this course, actually, because I was able to balance family life and do a little bit of work as well while I was in the course. So, and I like meeting people, interacting with people. So the workshops I found very, very positive experience as well, you know. And of course, online was very handy for me. You know, I didn't have to travel up to Cork or find parking, you know. It was and it worked out very well. Yeah.
Now you came up with so part of the assessments in semester one for myself and Gary were around developing program ideas. If you're happy to share some of those ideas with us and how you found that process.
Yeah, I will, of course. So we had to come up with an idea for a proposal for a factual documentary and then also for a factual entertainment documentary. So both were quite different in approach and content, of course. I found the factual entertainment documentary easier. It suited me better, I think. It was a documentary about people traveling back to the place they were in their youth and traveling back as adults after reaching a significant birthday. And it was about their experiences then and when they come back to visit the same place a second time. I actually loved the process because we learned so much about what has to go into a proposal and how to pitch a proposal, and of course how to find funding for your idea as well. You know, I like television, I watch television, so seeing it from the other side was very interesting to me. You know, what approach you have to take to actually get a TV program made from start to finish, you know, and so yeah, I found that process one of my favorite things actually in the course. You're on mute, Henry.
Will, on a similar note there, what was there anything that surprised you? Things that you didn't know about television production, or maybe your expectations changed, or your view on what making television programs might entail?
Thanks, Anne-Marie. Like I came to the course having a technical degree in audio video engineering, so I was quite practically strong on that side. But what I didn't have, the gap that I was missing, was how to take an idea and bring it to a stage where it could actually be produced, and all of the steps in between the two. And I mean, there were so many of them that I just wasn't aware. You know, I mean, from a proposal, a treatment, a pitch, an elevator pitch. I mean, just seeing the structure and the framework within those just made the process much more appealing and and it just made a lot more sense to me in my head. And like having a technical background, there was lots of gaps in me that if I was discussing an idea with somebody and it was like, how do we pitch this? How do we make it into a proposal? How do we do a treatment for it? And like prior to doing the course, I didn't really know what the definition of these words were in this context. So, I mean, I found that absolutely excellent. And the blended delivery of the course really suited me as well, because I was still able to, as Maria said, I was able to do a little other work and have other duties, but it allowed me to do so much of it in my own time, because I could go back and watch the lecture, go back through the notes, and make my own of it in that space as well. So, I mean, from that regard, there was a lot I didn't know, which was great. So there was a lot of learning in it for me.
Jake, in terms of your work placement, because obviously that's a big part of the program, the whole of semester two. Can you talk to us a little bit about your workplace and how you found that?
It was really fantastic. Yeah, from I think it was 3 in total, different companies we were with, including RT in Cork, and it really gave me, I feel anyway, it gave me a good idea of the breadth of different roles that are possible in the industry. So going into it, I wasn't even sure exactly where I wanted to end up within that, but getting to see all the different potential jobs, and also just getting to interact with people in the industry. Part of the placement is an industry report, so just chatting to people and getting their feedback on their own careers and any insights they have is hugely valuable.
And what was your favorite part of the work placement in terms of the work maybe that you liked the best?
I remember in RT Cork, I helped one of the producers put together a segment for the Today Show, and I think I liked that because it was something I never thought I would be able to do, but I felt really pushed in that environment to try my best to do the research, to find images, and to put together like a script for the presenters. So I found that very fulfilling.
And that went out on air?
Yeah, which was obviously a highlight, really. And I still have I have the script somewhere here with me still as a little memento.
Same,
Yeah.
Maria, what about your work experience?
Oh yes, I loved it. I can hardly contain my joy. It was fabulous. Yeah, we had 14 weeks with RT Cork on the Today Show as a researcher, and I was part of the team. You know, everything that went on, I was able to witness it. I was able to play a part in it. You know, I was part of the research team. And then I got to sit into the gallery and watch how the show is recorded and how sorry, not recorded, it's a live show. So how it's what happens during the live show. So I was able to see everything firsthand on that end of it. And then in one of the weeks I was there, I got a chance to be a production assistant on a documentary with RT Gaeilge in Dublin. So I was out on location around Cork City. So that was another piece of experience that I got, and I had to research locations for the filming of that documentary as well. So that was another aspect. Pardon?
What did that involve? Researching locations?
I had to call to one location and take a look at it and pick out a place there that we could do some filming. You know, a nice place that had good lighting, had good acoustics, and was suitable for the tone of the show that we were doing, you know. Excuse me, and speak to the proprietor of the location and liaise with him about what days we could come and what his availability was if we needed him on site and all those things. So that was a great experience. And then another location, I just had to contact the owner and just arrange to meet someone to give us the key to let us in, you know. So, I mean, this was all very new to me and very, very thrilling, to be honest. But like Jake said there about the segment on the Today Show as well, it's just very satisfying to work at something and then see it go to air and watch it back yourself afterwards. You know, it's a full life cycle of between research, you know, for your research. So yeah, I enjoyed it very much, and it was another thing that was a big carrot for the course. I think 14 weeks in a work experience anywhere is an amazing opportunity. You know, I'm not sure what other courses offer it, and to be part of the team and to be part of the heartbeat of the whole thing, it was, you know, it was thrilling, to be honest.
Will, what was your experience? You're obviously still working at RTE, so it must have been good, at least for your RTE work placement segment.
I was just trying to think. Yeah, I think it was 2019 when I did my class of 2019. So yeah, my work experience there was great. As Ria was saying, I spent a number of weeks there shadowing different people in different roles, got to see the whole show, how it started to finish. I took a real shine to following the social media manager that was there at the time. And, kind of not long after the work experience finished, that role became available there now. So I was incredibly fortunate, but I mean, having that exposure prior to it was completely invaluable because I knew exactly what I was getting into. I'd seen the role done before. So like that was a huge hurdle that was how to get over in that regard. So I mean, it is, as I said, invaluable, the work experience time I spent there working on the Today Show on RT. And still there, looking forward to the next season.
So as we've just been talking about, obviously a large part of the work placement does take place in RTE Cork. So RTE, for any of you who are not from Ireland, is our public service broadcaster, and a big part of that is Colm Crowley, who's the head of RTE Cork. The studios in Cork are responsible for a considerable amount of programming, and I would say they punch above their weight given the size of the location and the amount of material that they're putting out. And the studios are set for expansion in the coming year or so. Maybe Colm can talk to us a little bit about that. That's obviously going to, I suppose, make Cork more of a TV industry hub, which is obviously good news for everybody. Could you maybe give us an overview, Colm, of what happens in the studios currently in Cork? What kind of programming is made there?
Absolutely. Hello, everybody. As Anne-Marie said, I'm Colm Crowley, the head of production in RTE Cork. So we've been doing this with Anne-Marie and MTU. I guess it must be many years now, at least 5 or 6 years, maybe even more, Anne-Marie. And what's really gratifying is, and listening to the lads talking about their experience there earlier, is that we have put through, I don't know what the number must be, it must be close to 30, 40 people, something like that, over the years, maybe even more. And many of them have gone on to work in RT in different capacities and in the industry widely. And what I really like about this course is we get people who are maybe don't have next to no practical experience in the real world, but they're very well they're primed very well by the college. So it's not a huge leap for them once they're exposed over a week or two, literally, to be thrown in the deep end to kind of find their feet and start swimming very quickly. And I think that's kind of probably a little bit unique about what Anne-Marie and the lads are doing in this course, is that there is very, very few places in Ireland. The only other place I can think of is there's an internship in RT Dublin, which operates on a slightly different basis, but it's very similar to what we do in Cork. But I would think Cork is a much more practical, throw you in at the deep end type setup than the other internship. I don't want to be unfair to the Donnybrook, my Donnybrook cousins, but I think it's probably a slightly very broad experience they get there from radio and TV and news and current affairs and everything else. Whereas in Cork, it's much more focused, and I think people probably get a bit more out of it. But look, very briefly, what we do here is we principally have two kind of giant shows of the RT schedule. One is the Today Show, which I'll talk about in a second, and the other is Nationwide. Then we do a lot of radio, but radio kind of radio that has maybe small numbers, but has a very important audience attached to it. And the most important of those shows would be John Creedon's radio show. I don't know if people listen to radio much, but it's probably a little bit older for a lot of the people here, I imagine. But they're sort of small audiences, but they're very credible audiences, and they're very important audiences, and they serve somewhat niche, but really important culturally. And so radio is part of what we do here, but TV is kind of really the monster. So we make shows like, as I say, Today, Nationwide, internally. We do kind of work with the EBU internally on climate change, shows called Back from the Brink. We coordinate, I think it's 11 other broadcasters around Europe, and we create a series with 11 other broadcasters that's made out of here but shot all over Europe. We then do quite a lot of commissioning, increasingly so, particularly with UCC, who's been a fantastic partner with us. So we've done some major documentaries over the last few years. Probably the most successful one in terms of audience was a documentary series called The Hunger, about 3 years ago. Liam Neeson, voiced that, which has gone all over the world. It's about the Irish famine, 175 years of the Irish famine. And it was a kind of a forensic retelling of what happened with incredible research. So it was kind of shocking, I think, for people to understand what really happened at the time. And that really was a kind of a huge hit on RTE1, which people didn't expect. We've done another series with UCC called The Irish Revolution back in 2018, which Cillian Murphy voiced, about the Irish Revolution. Again, that was the first one we did with them. We then did the Irish Civil War with them 2 years ago, which Brendan Gleeson voiced. That was another monster 3 1-hours of television. And keep your eye open for a new series in the autumn, again with UCC, called The Irish Coast, they're all based on books, atlases. They create these atlases. That's another massive undertaking, which this one is voiced by Jesus, his name is, he'll come to me in a second. And we also have a huge cinematic documentary happening in August, which is called The Cable That Changed the World, which is about the first transatlantic cable, kind of like the equivalent of flying to the moon in the 19th century. The technology involved, the leap in imagination to get a cable from Canada to Kerry, so that we could start the information age. And that's a huge film. And that's narrated by Jessie Buckley, good Kerry girl. So you can see the kind of level of commissioning we're at. And then we have the kind of, if you like, the more hardcore stuff that we do internally, which is where we generate huge audiences on a day-to-day basis. So very briefly, the new strategic plan, and I'll send Anne-Marie a link to this if people haven't seen it, but it's obviously publicly available, sets out the course for RTE for the next 5 years, essentially, right? And one of the key things to keep in mind in that is our commissioning spend at the moment, which is what we spend on independent companies, is going from 40 million a year right now to 80 million by the end of the plan. So it's doubling, right? So there will be a huge amount of opportunities, I think, for new Irish companies and for Irish companies to expand over the next 4 years, using RTE money as the kind of core of it, but other people's money as well. And the other kind of really important thing, I think, to keep in mind when we talk about RTE Cork is that RTE has now decided there's 2 strategic places in Ireland that programme making will happen from, Cork and Dublin. So RTE Cork will expand. We will be hopefully moving into a new building towards the end of next year or early the following year. And that will be a broadcasting centre, which I can't go into too much detail, but we're trying to create a kind of a hub, a sort of a hub for independent companies, ourselves, shared resources, shared spaces, so that it becomes a much more creative cluster, if you like, in the city that will boost everybody, right? And then Limerick and Galway will also have developments in terms of what they do, but they would be probably a bit more niche. I think the thing to remember is over the next 5 years, RTE, and I think we've said this publicly now, is to kind of turn itself internally more into a live, so the people who stay working internally for RTE will probably be more involved in live radio, live sport, live news, live entertainment like we do here, live events, and an awful lot of the kind of documentary program making kind of stuff. By no means all of it, but most of it will be commissioned outside, which will drive the independent sector. So is that clear enough, Anne-Marie? Do you want me to go any more?
A really good time for anyone who would want to get into the industry. There's clearly an awful lot going on, particularly in Cork, as you say, that you're not forced to necessarily go to Dublin. When students come into RTE, what kind of things are they doing, and what potential career paths are there for them on the basis of the work placement segment?
Okay, well, look, I think there's about a 12-week placement, and I think the first couple of weeks, what we try to do is structure it so everybody gets a look at different areas. So because people, I'm always by the fact when people come in here, they a lot of the time they don't know certain kinds of jobs even exist, right? So I remember we had some people about 2 years ago. We have a particular role in RTE. All live television is a thing we call them broadcast BCOs, broadcast coordinators. Most people in the real world call them PAs, gallery PAs, but for some reason RTE is a funny title, right? So, but like a lot of the people would come in wouldn't know these roles exist. Another role might, everybody's familiar with a video editor is. They wouldn't necessarily know what a grader is. So it's the person who gives a creative look to the finished film and documentary. So there's kind of niche roles that are incredibly well paid and incredibly rewarding. And I think when people need a chance to look around at the different functions. So I think that's what we did with the first couple of weeks. In reality, most people end up a bit like Maria, shadowing researchers and becoming effectively researchers embedded into different program teams. And they become really important over that sort of 12-week period. They become central to the teams. Now, sometimes they can only be here 2 days a week or whatever, sometimes maybe more, but they absolutely are pushed by the production teams to challenge themselves and to follow their instincts. They're very heavily watched because we're in a live environment, so you can't just write a script and it accidentally gets to where and we're all in trouble. So there's a lot of checking goes on, but fundamentally people are not blocked from trying to be the best they can be at any particular week. So I think it's kind of I think it's incredibly rare experience that people will get. I was talking to somebody in London recently who was explaining to me that there's so many production companies in London. Everybody wants to be a runner. Everybody wants to be a trainee to get the foot in the door. They don't pay them anything. They keep them on a string for a year. And then if they're any good, they might give them a job or whatever. The problem now is it's so difficult to live in London, so expensive to live in London, unless mummy and daddy are millionaire dentists. No working class kid can go to London from Manchester or Glasgow or whatever and get a work placement in London because they don't have the money to put themselves up for 6 months. So our people here get the kind of London experience, but in a city where it's obviously much, much cheaper to live, and RT contributes a little bit towards your expenses. So you walk into jobs elsewhere, even with this 12-week experience, because it gives you such an advantage. Internationally, I'm talking about, right? But ultimately, it's up to the individual, Anne-Marie, to decide what area they want to be, what they're interested in. The key areas for us are live television. There's some documentary experience, but it's principally live television, entertainment, and basically factual entertainment would be the broad way of describing it. If you're interested in the world, popular culture, and kind of a smart analysis of what's going on around you, from light news and current affairs right through to sport and celebrity culture, then you'll get a lot of exposure in that area on the Today Show in particular. Does that make sense?
Yes, and the Today Show, watch it. Obviously, if you're interested in applying for this course, it's a monster that really needs to be fed every day. It's a huge amount of television, and there's no better place to start because no matter how good you are today, you start all over again tomorrow, which is, a good thing to learn. Yeah, it's an excellent opportunity. Listen, everybody, thank you very much indeed. Gary has already given, excuse me, his recommendations and advice. Watch television. Does anyone else have any maybe observations on or tips or that you might want to give to potential applicants about what they might get out of the course or what they might do to enhance their the best way of getting value out of the course?
I think it would be good for anyone coming in that if they already have a story that they like or that they want to tell, to really kind of hone it, because from the first day you start, like I had one in mind when I started the course. It was a story of an old Irish Wimbledon finalist with a crazy story that came afterwards. And I had that from the start. So when we were going through the steps in the course, I was able to apply it in my head and see how it practically fell into place there. So if anyone has a story that they already like, definitely bring that with them. I think it would help a lot.
Great stuff. So watch television, maybe think about ideas. Again, working those two in conjunction to see how can I adapt this idea into something that will actually make it onto TV as opposed to maybe a longer documentary. Any other suggestions?
I have one more. Question everything.
Question.
Just don't ever stop asking questions. On day one, start asking questions. Just keep asking questions, because you have an opportunity on a course like this, and with an experience, with a work experience with RT Cork or another company, you have a unique and one-off opportunity to find out as much as you can. And one thing is for sure, every single person who works in television loves talking about themselves and what they do. So make the most of it, okay?
Excellent advice. Thank you very much, everybody, and Maria, Colm, Will, and Jake, and of course Gary, for your time today. I'll just give you some contact details there. So if you have any questions at all, you can contact me on annemarie.green@mtu.ie, and this is the link to further information and to where you can apply online for the course. Thank you very much indeed for your time. Thanks to everybody, and we'll see you all again in September.